What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Zary, and before we get into the video, I just want to remind everybody, if you're under level 15 and you want $10 worth of free stuff, go to your settings, go to use promo code, and type in XMG Gift. You do that, you'll get $10 worth of free stuff. It helps support the channel. So if you're under level 15, make sure you're using that promo code XMG Gift. Enjoy the video. What is going on, my YouTube family? It is your boy Zary, and we are here to talk a little of the Nessa kit, and then we're going to talk about the new T7s that I didn't get to in the patch notes breakdown. So let's jump right into it, make it as easy as we can on everybody here. The first one up here is Nessa, and I really want to get into Nessa. She is a healer leader. I like this, and her first ability is Caustic Bite. This is at level 7. We're going to talk about all level 7 abilities. Deals 300% magic damage to an enemy. If the target is poisoned, deals additional 60% magic damage through shield and inflicts poison for 2 turns. So if you don't get through that shield, right, she inflicts poison for 2 turns. Or if the target is poisoned, but if they're not poisoned, you inflict the poison. Okay. So we're seeing definitely some potency on this character. Now, she is a leader and a healer, so I have not play tested her at all yet, so we don't know what kind of damage really that is. I mean, at gear 11, her magic damage is 3549, so definitely has some possibility to do some pretty decent damage. Second ability, Pillar of Life. She gains 15% turn meter for each ally with full health. I love that sentence right there. It doesn't say pride. Doesn't say clans, it just says ally. That's huge. Plug and play viability, but you can't gain more than 75%. That's understandable. We don't want to just repeat. Heals all allies for 480 of her magic damage. Gives allies a shield equal to 120% of the magic damage, and an additional 40% for each dazed enemy. Wow. So you put her with somebody like a Garrett who has a mass daze. That's huge. That could really do a lot of healing and add a lot of shield back. So third ability, Spirit of Cobra. Gives shield to herself and an ally with the lowest current health, equal to 120% of her magic damage for each stack of poison on the enemy. So she puts out poison. Vorian, who just got reworked, puts out poison. The Nessa puts out poison. Venomate. Very interesting. Inflicts tenacity decrease to all enemies for 3 turns. Inflicts daze to all poison enemies for 3 turns. And inflicts poison and critical chance decrease for 2 turns. There is a lot going on in that kit. So she's giving herself shield, but then she's also putting out daze if that poison's out there to everybody. And then she's inflicting poison if they don't have poison, and critical chance decrease for 2 turns. Passive ability, Wisdom of the Snake. She gains a 12% increase of magic damage and potency for each alive Pride member. Okay. If she takes damage that drops her health below 100%, Salvador loses all of his debuffs and gains Taunt. So plug and play viability just went down here. As you know, reading it over, she needs Pride to make it work. She needs Salvador there, and the synergy with Salvador is interesting because this is just her passive ability. So we got to read her leadership, but are we breaking up the Hera Salvador leadership and then gaining more magic damage to already gaining magic damage is pretty solid. Leadership ability, all Pride members gain 20% tenacity. That's poopy. At the start of the battle, all Pride members gain a shield equal to 20% of their health. At the start of the battle, she inflicts poison for 2 turns on all enemies. So she's putting up poison. So she's giving you something if you don't have Pride with her. I have not play tested her at all, but I'm thinking you put her in with Hera. Very interesting. I think her leadership's going to be kind of niche and really not usable there. So my overall thoughts is she's going to be incredible. She has great plug and play viability. She pairs well with poisons. She can do things outside of her leadership, unlike a Hera is really unusable outside of her leadership. So, you know, the initial test comp I will probably run with them is the Hera lead, Salvador, Boris, and Kagi. See how she does. And then the poison comp I kind of want to dig into, because Amara could be interesting on that poison comp, because she does more damage based on burns and poisons. So that could be really interesting in that comp too. So I'll get playing around with that as well. So enough of Nessa. Let's go check out some T7s. Nightingale T7s. Here we go. So she deals. What does she do here? At tier 7, she gains 40% magic damage and a 20% chance to deal shield piercing damage. So she goes up to a 70% chance to cut the shield, and the 40% damage increase really can't be overlooked, to be completely honest, because you pair her with Soleus, she's using her basics so much more. This could be really, really big, and at level 8, 320, and then pierces through shields. I mean, level 8 scroll mats aren't in the game yet. I don't know if you can buy them or not yet. I haven't tried, but this is interesting. I like this T7 on her. Now, the Veil of Silence at T7, she gains a 90% magic increase, damage increase, putting it up to 510, and she inflicts ability block and then a tenacity decrease for 2 turns. That's not really much to write home about, the tenacity decrease, but the 510 magic damage is huge. Huge, but to me, that's not as good as her basic, I don't think. Midnight Glow at level 7 restores 25% turn meter, and all allies gain a potency increase for 2 turns. I like that because it's all allies. You know, we're decreasing the initial cooldown at tier 6, but the damage increase to all allies is super nice. And then also a potency increase to all allies as well, and 25% turn meter. Interesting. Passive ability. 1 debuff removed. So now she removes 2 debuffs from herself and Soleus and removes 1 buff from a random enemy. If living Soleus in the party, 2 buffs are removed instead of 1. Not enough. Not enough debuffs to be removed. Now, bringing it from 1 to 2 is great, but we have people who can throw around 4 or 5 debuffs in one move, and we're taking 2 of them away. It's not enough. I mean, eventually it would be worth it. But her basic really seems like the key one here to me, because she does use it so much more. I mean, 510 magic damage there. We get the potency increase and some turn meter. You know, overall, it doesn't blow me away, but that basic could be huge if you're running her under a Soleus comp. Next character up is Revol. Now, Revol just gains 50% magic damage. So he goes from 240 in inflicting bleed to 290 in inflicting bleed at tier 8, goes to 340, and then inflicts bleed for 3 turns. Running this, if you go tier 8 here, is huge for the bleed team. The more bleed you can stack out there and have it last longer is extremely beneficial. But, I mean, doing the little more damage really here at tier 7, until they release the tier 8, that really doesn't do much for me. On the swipe ability, he deals 50% more damage and then 5% additional physical damage when that target has bleeding. And they added that caveat of bleeding onto his swipe. I really like that. But here, you know, again, it's 5% for each effect of bleeding on all enemies. So 5% could be actually, that could add up really quick. The Eviscerate here at tier 7, 80% physical damage and reduces the max cooldown by 1. So it goes from 5 to 4. That is big. This is probably his biggest one to me, because his Eviscerate, if the target is bleeding, turn meter, that's going to rotate even faster. That's going to be really big for Revol. And then his passive ability, 10% damage. He deals 60% more damage to bleeding enemies. Okay. I mean, not super big end of the world, but I actually like this. The Eviscerate one is huge for him. This one here is the Bloodlust on his passive. And then here, yeah, I mean, this could really, really benefit him. This one, not so much, but This could be my favorites to what I've seen added so far. Dr. Frank. Dr. Frank at level 7 on his electric sock basic, he gets 60% more magic damage. This again is a big one. It's a big one because if the target is inflicted by shock, he then inflicts daze and inflicts shock for 2 turns if they don't have it. But he gets called in to assist all the time in the goblin comp there under General Murdoch lead. So having him come in and do this and doing more damage means he does more damage on the assist. So that is always a good thing especially on a team that they don't do a lot of damage because of all the assists. So adding more damage to a basic is nice. Iron him flat at level 7 brings it up to 360 and then 430. So again, we're just seeing damage increase. Like, let's do something with the shock here. Not a big fan of this right now. Restores 90% of the shield, so 440. But then what's big to this one here is then you heal off the equivalent to the restored shield. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 here. This is his best one by far so far. His emergency call, level 7, 1 goblin to assist if the attacker is Dr. Frank and Old Lord. So instead of 2, you're now calling in 3, more damage. So that one's good. You know, I wouldn't be rushing out to do these, but this could really, really change the assist under that General Murdoch lead with Dr. Frank. But I don't know if it's going to be something I would rush out and do right away. If you're in love with goblins, definitely do it. Next one up here, Major Shot at level 7. He gains 50% physical damage to the main target and 10% damage to all the other targets. So he goes from 220 to 270 and 60 to 70. Okay, you know, more damage is more damage. Not my favorite. Here he gains 40% physical chance and a 30% chance to stun. See right here he had 70%, so now it's only going through that 1 potency tenacity check, but he still has to be in that caveat of battle mode. I hate that. The initial cooldown by 1 is much needed. Definitely need that, so now you can use that on your second ability. Flashbang. Blindness, initial cooldown by 1, and then crit chance decrease for 2 turns. I really wanted to see the initial cooldown's great. Max cooldown, again, needed to take another one. Even at level 8, they could have had it go down again. I mean, you're still at your 8, then you're 7. 7 turns for blind. Other characters can do it so much faster. That one's kind of disappointing. And then his passive ability, 30% chance to trigger once more. Restores 1 turn to a random ability at the start of a turn. Okay, so you're restoring 1 and then you have a 30% chance to restore another one. I wouldn't really rush out and do any of these. I mean, the initial cooldown here, great. But what's 1 more turn? I mean, he's so squishy, it could really help you out, but I don't like that Major Shot one really much at all. And then we have Slinger. Slinger on his Pebble basic, 50% more damage, and a 5% turn meter decrease. So this should be 15%, so that's wrong. It's still only a 50% chance. I just, nope, no rush to do that one. At level 7, 50%, and then removes 1 buff. So instead of 1, it's 2, but again, we're looking at the same thing as we saw earlier with Nightiel. More Doom puts up 5 debuffs. 2. You could get tenacity and, you know, no. I mean, it's better than 1, I guess, but... And then just 70%. No, it's a single target. Not a fan. Here, 50% more damage and then 20% more crit damage with enemies against taunt. No, this one's kind of really, really disappointing. Buffs last for 1 more turn. So instead of 1 turn, 2 turns. Now this one, damage increase, crit chance increase, crit damage for 2 turns at the end of his turn. That is nice. He's always going to have that up then. That one's pretty nice. That is my favorite out of all of them. But man, Slinger was super disappointing. Vorian the Trickster. Physical damage and poison lasts one more turn. So again, keeping up the poison, especially if you have Nessa, that is huge. His damage really isn't that bad. Wasn't that bad, I should say. That never was his problem. Here, 70% damage and 30% extra physical damage. So we're up to 340. Deals an extra 120 physical damage if the target is poisoned, and then the targeted enemy gets poisoned for 3 turns. Okay, not bad, I guess. Maybe I just not as disappointed as this man in Slinger, because Slinger was once awesome and he isn't anymore. 80% piercing damage, that's nice. 20% extra piercing damage. Healing block lasts one more turn. It removes 1 buff for each stack of poison on the target. That is a big one. Because you pair him up, he could dispel 5-6 target. That's a good T7 right there. And then he just gets more damage and more piercing damage. Passive ability, 30% chance to inflict an extra stack of poison. So he has poison for 2 turns. For 2 turns when he deals damage. And then an extra 30% to apply 2 stacks of poison instead of 1. If Nessa is on the battlefield, she gets the same advantages. So for an extra 30% chance, it's really not worth the scrolls to me, since, you know, they're so hard to come by, but now that you can buy them, why not? But yeah, not bad from Vorian. I definitely think this one here, his sneaky maneuver, is the one to do. That is a great T7 on him, depending on how he plays. So there it is. There's my breakdown of Nessa and Nightl. Overall, the T7s, more T7s that come into the game, I like. So I was excited for that. Slingers is very underwhelming, and then there's 1 or 2. There's not like 1 all the way across the board that I'm like, I got a T7 every single one of these abilities. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. Sorry to break this up into 2 videos, but the other video was going on long enough, and this one is perfect, like right around that 17-minute mark. So that's where I want to keep it. So that being said, I will see you on the next one. I love you. I'm out.